Today we're making strawberry bread. This has been one of my favorite holiday treats since I was a little kid. It combines the summery sweetness of strawberries with the warm flavors of cinnamon and pecans. And the recipe makes a lot, plenty for your own household and to give to family and friends. So let's get baking. We'll start with our dry ingredients, which are 3 cups or 375 grams of all-purpose flour, to which we'll add 2 cups of granulated sugar, and measuring by weight that works out to 400 grams. The measurements and full instructions are always in the description below the video, by the way. Keep going. And there we are, 400 grams. We'll add a teaspoon of salt. I'm using kosher salt. If you're using regular table salt, you'll want to go a little light on that teaspoon. A teaspoon of baking soda and a tablespoon of cinnamon. It seems like a lot, but it is really good, and that's what really gives this a holiday flavor and smell. Your house will smell fantastic while this is baking. All right, so we will whisk all of this together, and we want to whisk for a good 30 seconds, as always, to evenly distribute that baking soda. In this case, we want to distribute our leavener really thoroughly, so we'll give this a good thorough whisk. And once that's thoroughly combined, we will set it aside, tuck our scale away, and move on. So in a large bowl, I have 4 eggs already cracked, and this is the bowl to my stand mixer. You don't actually need a stand mixer or even a hand mixer. We're just going to mix all of this with a whisk and then a spatula or wooden spoon. But this is going to be a pretty runny batter, so I'm using this big bowl, and there's a lot of it, so I'm using this bowl anyway because it has a pouring spout, and that's all. All right, so I have 4 eggs in here, and we're going to add to that a cup of neutral oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, even light olive oil will work. Take that same whisk we used for our dry ingredients and just whisk these eggs and the oil together until they're thoroughly combined, like so. And then to that, we are adding strawberries. These are the strawberries you get sliced and in syrup in the freezer aisle. They're just thawed. This is 20 ounces of those, which works out to about 2 1/3 cups. You can definitely use fresh strawberries, but you'll want to make a sugar syrup, a simple syrup to go with those to make the whole thing work out the same way as the original recipe. All right. Anyhow, so normally I do start with whole fruit, etc., but this recipe has been handed down through my family, and this is what it started out as, so I stick with those strawberries. All right, so I'm just going to give that a quick mix with the whisk, and ta-da! And then we will start adding our dry ingredients, and we'll go in maybe 1 or 2 additions, 2 or 3 additions to do this. I just want to leave a few spoonfuls of this dry mixture behind because the last thing we'll add, it's optional, but they're really good, are pecans. If you're not adding pecans, or other nuts work as well, almonds, maybe almonds, definitely walnuts. I always go with pecans for this, but if you're not adding the nuts, you can just put all of the dry ingredients in at once. Otherwise, leave a few behind because we'll toss the nuts with those. So we'll coax this into the bowl. half of it. We'll start by whisking. Get the other half in there. Whoops, almost forgot to leave a little bit behind. And we'll work this in with the whisk. We just want everything to be thoroughly incorporated. No patches of unmixed dry ingredients. Of course, you will have chunks of strawberry in there, but that'll be fine. All right, so we're going to mix until there are just a few wisps of dry ingredient in here, no big patches, because we're going to stir one more time. Put my pecans, I've got about 1.25 cups of pecan pieces, and just I'm gonna toss those with my hands in the flour. And that's just, when we do this with nuts or chocolate chips or pieces of fruit that we're mixing into a batter, it just helps them not to sink to the bottom. Right, there we go. Put that in, and we will just kind of gently fold that into our batter. And this is in the family of recipes or cakes that we refer to as quick breads, just cakes baked, mixed together fairly quickly with no yeast and baked in loaf pans, right? And we never want to overmix these. Okay, so just as soon as the last wisp of dry ingredient disappears into the batter, we're done. All right, and that's it. That's everything that goes into these. And now, and when I say these, I'm going to bake this into 3 loaves using 8.5 by 4.25 inch loaf pans. You can also do this in 2 loaves, 2 9 by 5 inch loaves. You can use other baking pans, lots of equivalent sizes out there or combinations. All right, and I have this stuff does stick and it takes a while to bake. So I definitely grease or line your pans, or both, which is what I've done. I've got parchment and I've greased my pans. And so I'm going to divide my batter evenly across my 3 pans. All right, my pans are filled evenly, and I'm going to do a couple things before I slide them into the oven. One, I will bake these, all of them on a large cookie sheet or half sheet pan. It just helps if you have smaller or lighter weight baking pans, it'll help things to bake evenly. And this should not overflow, but obviously if there were a risk of overflow, that helps as well. The other thing I'm going to do, because this is a really liquidy batter, especially because of those the liquid content in those strawberries, it will take a while to finish baking, and we don't want it to burn on the top while the center finishes. So these are going to go into a 350-degree oven. For these smaller size loaves, the 8.5 by 4.25, that's going to take probably easily an hour. For the 9 by 5 inch loaves, that takes well over an hour for me every time. I start checking in an hour for doneness, but they're never, the larger loaves aren't usually done by then. So in order to keep the tops from burning, we're going to tent them with foil. And so this is going to make a lovely crinkly foil noise as I do it. But let me show you how I do that. We'll take the foil. You don't really have to worry that much about keeping the dull side down, but I do try to do that. Your foil has a dull side and a shinier side, so dull side towards the cake. And I'm going to take, make a fold long ways here, like so, and maybe just fold it one more time. And then open it back up. That kind of makes a tent shape, okay? And then I'm just going to kind of gently, I have this parchment paper overhang, which will help me get my loaves out, but so I'll gently fold over the edge of that. and just crimp it onto the edge of my baking pan. I don't want this to be tight because then as the loaf rises, the top will stick to the foil. We don't want that. All right, so we'll just kind of try and gently work that around the edges. It doesn't have to be like airtight or anything, okay? The idea here is just to shield the top of the cake or bread from direct heat. So I'll just kind of work that around. In fact, I don't want it to be too tight because this isn't gonna stay on the whole time. About halfway through baking, about 30 minutes in or so, I'm gonna reach in with the tongs and just kind of pull that off. So I'll kind of keep the what'll be the back side of that a little bit loose even, just so that it's easier to kind of reach in and pull that off with a set of tongs. And I don't have to take the cakes all the way out or spend too long with the oven door open, because then I can wind up with my cake falling, which is, you know, when it was rising and then it caves in and the center is underdone. We don't want that either. All right, so I am going to tent the rest of these. My oven has come up to 350 degrees. And so once these are tented, I'll put them in the oven, pull the foil off about 30 minutes in, and let them bake the rest of the way until the usual test, a toothpick put into the center of the cake, comes out clean, except of course for a little moisture from some strawberries. All right, we will see these when they're out of the oven. Our loaves of strawberry bread are out of the oven and the kitchen smells amazing. These took about an hour and 5 minutes to bake with that toothpick tester coming out clean, and they've been cooling on cooling racks for about 15 minutes, long enough that I could hold the pan comfortably, but they still have a while to go before they're all the way cool. We're going to wait for that to happen and then slide a flexible spatula, or if your pan can take it, a knife around the edge before we gently coax these out of the pan and take a slice. And when we do, we'll be in for a treat. We hope you give this a try and you check back every Friday at 4 o'clock for a new recipe.